This video is going to deal with flight delay compensation and the rules on flight delays and cancellations. There are separate rules for flight delays and cancellations in Europe and in the United States and in other parts of the world. This video will concentrate mainly on the European rules and those in the United States. Beginning with the European rules, these are covered under the denied boarding regulation. This means that you either departed from a European country or with a European airline, and your flight is caught within these rules if it was delayed or cancelled by the airline. The first thing to note is the arrival time at your destination. If you are more than 4 hours late, you could be entitled to €600 in compensation. It's important to remember that you need to have a confirmed booking, you need to have checked in on time or at least 45 minutes before the departure time, or that you are departing from an EU airport or arriving at an EU airport with a European carrier. So just to clarify that, if you are flying with a non-European carrier and you are travelling from a non-European country, these rules will not apply. Now, if you are caught by these rules and delayed by 2 hours or more, you are entitled to free phone calls, free meals, and overnight accommodation if that's necessary, including hotel transfers if the hotel is not part of the same complex. Under the rules, if your flight is delayed by more than 5 hours, you have the option to be rerouted or to a full refund. And this operates in the same way as though your flight had been cancelled. It's also important to note that each passenger is entitled to claim individually. So if a couple is travelling, then each person can claim in the same way. So if 2 people were travelling for that full distance and it was delayed by more than 4 hours, each passenger is entitled to €600. It's important to consider that there are some restrictions to this, and those are known as extraordinary circumstances. Those are things beyond the airline's control, which if they occur, then they don't have to pay you this compensation under the rules. For example, a security risk. If there's a major security risk at the airport that is beyond their control, which affects the airline, then the airline is not liable to pay you the compensation. Similarly, unlawful acts, political instability, and those kind of things, if those cause disruption in the airport or to the airline, again, they are not obliged to compensate you for the delay. Also, other things beyond their control, such as severe weather and other security concerns at the airport, all of these things would count as an extraordinary circumstance that's beyond the airline's control. So in those circumstances, you would not be entitled to the compensation automatically. Although some airlines would still compensate you, they wouldn't be obliged to do so. An important note with strikes by staff, however, is that it doesn't extend to the airline's own staff, because they are deemed to be within the airline's control. It only applies to non-airline staff, such as those at the airport. But irrespective of the entitlement to compensation, you are entitled to assistance when your flight is delayed, and the airline must help you to reach your final destination in good time. Case law that's gone through the European Court of Justice has also determined that a technical fault with the aircraft is not an extraordinary circumstance. So if you've been delayed by a flight that was as a result of a technical failure of the aircraft, and the airline has told you that you're not entitled to compensation because of this, you can respond to say that that is not an extraordinary circumstance and that you are entitled to compensation under the rules. In addition to the standard compensation, you are allowed to claim for out-of-pocket expenses. These might be things such as hotels that you've booked for your destination, or if you're flying to view a concert, then you are entitled to claim for the lost fee for that concert as well. Or other things such as car hire or other incidentals that were date dependent, which you've now missed because the flight was delayed. If the ultimate decision of the airline is that they will not compensate you for the delay, there is a list of alternative dispute resolution providers, that is, an alternative to court action, where you can discuss the dispute and your entitlement to compensation, and very often the airline will choose to compensate you rather than defending legal action. So if in this scenario you have exhausted all other avenues and simply getting nowhere, then you really need to be issuing a letter of claim, which is also dealt with in one of my videos, setting out the delays that you've had with the flight, your entitlement to compensation, and any other out-of-pocket expenses. And very often the airline will choose to compensate you instead of defending legal action. Under the regulations, if you have a package holiday that has been cancelled, you are entitled to a full refund within 14 days. Although, particularly at the time of recording during the coronavirus pandemic, many airlines and agents are refusing to provide these refunds and making it very difficult to contact them, all of which is against the law. However, most are implementing some kind of long-term strategy to mitigate the impact on their cash flow. On the other hand, if you have a flight-only booking, then this is required to be refunded within 7 days. There have also been disputes over whether the agent is acting as agent only, and therefore it is the airline that is responsible for refunding you for the flight, or whether it's the agent. Most agency agreements have a term which means that they are only acting as an agent and it is the airline that is supposed to refund you. However, if you get in writing from the airline that it is the agent that is responsible for refunding you, then you can legitimately sue both the agent and the airline for your money, because either party is blaming each other. As to compensation within the United States, this is only provided where the airline has overbooked a flight to try to ensure that it is full capacity on departure if some people don't turn up. If in this case you are delayed as a result, that is where the United States compensation will kick in. Flight delays in the United States are considered to be those that are to or from a United States airport, or domestic flights within the United States. Now, whilst the United States offer higher compensation, the requirements are quite different from those of the European Union. Now, if you are on a domestic flight within the United States and your delay is less than an hour, then there is no compensation. However, if your delay is between 1 and 2 hours, your compensation is 200% of your fare price, up to a maximum of $675 at the time of recording. However, if your delay is between 1 and 2 hours, your compensation is 200% of your one-way journey ticket, up to a maximum of $675. And if your delay is between 2 and 4 hours, your compensation is 400% of your one-way ticket, up to a maximum of $1,350. Similarly, in an international flight, if your delay is less than an hour, there is no compensation. And again, if your flight is delayed between 2 and 4 hours on an international flight, your compensation is 200% of your one-way ticket, up to a maximum of $675. But with an international flight, this also applies to delays between 2 and 4 hours, so there's no extension on the compensation up to 4 hours. However, more than 4 hours, your compensation is uplifted to 400%, to a maximum of $1,350. If you are looking for compensation for an overbooked flight, you need to keep all of the documentation, and the airline need to give you a written explanation as to why that happened, and you are encouraged to discuss this with the airline within a 30-day time limit to negotiate some compensation. It's important to remember the main distinction between European compensation and United States compensation. That is that the latter, the United States, do not provide compensation for a delayed flight, no matter what the reason. The only compensation provided for United States delays is that of overbooking and compensation related to that overbooking. As with any dispute, if you fail to get your money back, you are down to writing a letter of claim, setting out your case, why you deserve the money back, and initiating court proceedings. If you have any questions about flight delays, holiday delays and cancellations, please drop them in the comments below and I will endeavour to update this video to cover those questions. Thank you for watching Barrister Secrets and join me again for another legal video.